guys. My name is Yuri Kovalchuk. I'm CEO and co-founder of Cultivate. Welcome back to new year and new episode of Digital Ag Global. And as Clyde mentioned, today we're going to discuss forecasting in for food companies in era of AI and machine learning. Volatile climate, volatile changes in demand and supply, uncertainties in geopolitics, logistics. All of these things are impacting how we think about food supply and demand. And with AI in a full burst with machine learning, it's potential game changers for the industry, but also a source of kind of hype and misunderstanding sometimes. That's why we have Jan-Willem, CEO and founder of Merqato, with us today to help us navigate how it can be used. Before we jump into introducing Jan-Willem, I just want to remind our audience that Digital Ag Global as a platform for AgTech innovations and discussions, we encourage you to become a part of our partnership program. Jan-Willem, while we are here, I guess we can start with your introductions, and we'll brief Clyde in, I guess.
Yeah, thanks, Yuri. So, my name is Jan-Willem Snoeker, indeed, and I'm the co-founder, the founder, and the CEO of Merqato. And I come maybe with the introduction of myself. So I come from a grower family. My great grandfather started with tomato producing actually in 1890, so a long time ago, and still my uncle and cousin do have a greenhouse, so I know a bit of the industry. And I've also founded another company before, and also worked in different corporate environments, with actually kind of the aim of always the commercial roles and growing certain businesses. I think 2003 we started Merqato with the key objective to solve or actually help to reduce one of the biggest problems we have is food waste. That's what we're trying to do with the technology and the collaboration we have with the wholesalers.
Is it only about the food waste, or is also about having a better visibility in demand, yield, and then supply, the potential supply of companies you work with?
Yeah, that's a good question, Yuri. So I think what we see is the why I kind of started this company is because of that. But we also see there's a direct correlation with reducing food waste and having a better profitability for those companies. And of course, the latter is the most interesting for companies actually to work with us. And that comes actually with kind of better visibility in long term, kind of what you can expect, or in terms of selling or sourcing. That also of course comes with a better kind of integration of external data points. I think there are a lot of things actually attached to it actually indeed. But the why for me is to start with that. But the why for customers is for sure definitely helping to improve their margins.
For sure. Clyde, you're back with us. Can you hear us?
I've heard every word. So
okay,
fantastic.
Good.
Yeah. So what kind of companies are you working with, Jan-Willem, and what kind of geographies are you engaged in?
So what the type of companies we are looking for is kind of, and we're working with, is kind of more than 50 million euros of revenue. Ideally, those companies are trading fresh produce. So and what I mean with fresh produce is kind of our products, not like potato and onions, which you can store for a long time, but really kind of, for example, soft fruit, tomatoes, paprika, green beans, all those type of kind of products, which you receive and you need to sell within a certain time frame, right? To make sure you keep the quality. The companies actually, because we are on the forefront in the industry, we also like to work with companies who like to do innovation, meaning that they're open to kind of, the whole process and journey working with kind of companies like ourselves. And ideally they have a good feel of data, because in the end, data is for us the live stream. So that they need to kind of a little bit familiar and having kind of a certain maturity with their own data, that is important for us. And if you then look at kind of the geographies, so the headquarters with the companies of the headquarters we're working with are in multiple European countries, and they of course have production locations across the globe. We're working with South American production locations, North African, but also actually with many more. Because of course, and we talk about fresh produce. So one important factor is seasonality. When on one side of the hemisphere it is winter, the other side of the hemisphere it is summer, and vice versa. So automatically you work in a global connected world, so to say, to make sure that we have every day fresh produce in the supermarkets, because that's in the end what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting period of time where I think demand for fresh nutritional food is rising, particularly in in more developed countries. But at the same time, we have all these issues of affordability, food security, and the two are kind of don't necessarily work together.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I think if you look at kind of the whole kind of what we always say with kind of conversation we have is 1/3 of the food between the grower and the supermarket is lost. So that's 1/3 of the total produce, which is amazing amount. And at the same time, we see also low margin actually at growers and wholesalers. So that's also what the aim of the game is, right? To help to become more efficient and reduce that 30% to maybe a lower percentage number, to make sure that actually the cost is going up down, and then making sure that also the prices are more affordable, because indeed there's more demand, but at the same time there's just constant friction actually with the price, which is also sometimes on the higher side, and that's indirectly we help to solve that. Yeah.
So maybe you could, let's say I'm a produce manager in a food company. I'm trying to be more efficient. I'm under pressure, and what kind of am I getting a computer screen, email? How do I log into a website? How do I interface with Merqato?
Yeah, what we see is there are a lot of different type of companies. So meaning that, I would kind of say that there are mainly three types. So one is they want to work with kind of a portal, and they kind of want to see it, log in, and kind of see the forecast for the coming weeks. There's a group of customers who like to receive actually emails on a weekly basis, because they have so many already platforms they need to log into that is not working for them. So they want to see an email. And we also have a group of customers where we see, okay, they want to have an Excel export. So in that sense, there are three types of output for what we do. But I think the most important thing is indeed, so if you look at kind of, for example, sales manager, right? So they need to look at the different customers they need to manage, but then also within the customers, the different distribution centers. And then within the distribution center, and also for the total portfolio, looking at the total number of commercial types. So meaning 125 grams of blueberries or 300 grams of strawberries, right? All those different type of products. And there the complexity comes in, because it is super, first of all, a lot of kind of different commercial SKUs. And as a sales manager, you need to kind of constantly kind of say, okay, I expect so many units or colleagues actually going to that DC, and that's a headache for those sales managers, for example, because they receive input from supply, which then also sometimes a bit shaky, because it's based a lot on calling on, hey, what's happening in the production side. And then they need to kind of base their gut feeling conversation with the customers most of the time without really kind of utilizing data, what they're going to sell. So I think for the sales manager, indeed, I think the question is indeed, if you mentioned about the output, but I think it's more kind of the pain they face every day, actually of their working day.
So Yuri, in terms of the technology that Jan-Willem is using and that is out in the marketplace, is it really up to the job at this point, or is there still work that needs to be done to make it, more, to really deliver the kind of results that Jan-Willem's customers are looking for?
It's a kind of provocative question, I guess. I will not score Merqato platform.
No,
But
I meant generally in the marketplace, not just
but
yeah.
in terms of using machine learning AI for forecasting, that's something we kind of briefly already touched upon. Uh, that's a viable technology. It's trendy. It's getting better and better share on the market because, as Jan-Willem mentioned, a lot of companies still relies on Excels and a lot of spreadsheets. And if you have vast amount of information from different data sources from different locations, you cannot comprehend it with usual statistical methods. You need something more advanced. A couple of years ago, in machine learning community, there was presented this algorithm called XGBoost. Right now, used for very different type of forecasting, but it's very unique and simple way to build a very precise models, machine learning models, that help you to get a very precise predictions and forecasts. But the question of data still stands, and I just want to kind of get back to something Jan-Willem mentioned, working with different customers that work with different crops, different fresh produce in different locations, and they have multiple production sites of farms across the globe. I guess data quality and data sources, how big of a challenge it is right now. That's
No, so I think there is a to do this question, there are multiple kind of section of this answer. So basically, I think first of all, I want maybe tap into the point you mentioned, that they're kind of acting on Excels, and maybe they have production locations in many different sites, right, in a country or with multiple countries. What currently is happening is that they kind of call the growers and kind of seek to get insights, but then also they look at the weather forecast on maybe their phone or whatever, they kind of get the insights in, but they don't really look yet in kind of all the different kind of levels of weather, for example, and how much impact that has on the production, not only historically, but also future forward. So I think that is one thing, right? And I think that's with machine learning, you can do that in a much more advanced way and also automatic way. So every week you can just, without the human interaction, you can just have that visibility future forward, where you actually ingested already this weather data. So I think I think that is one important topic. Then the other part is what you just sharing is kind of, is there sufficient data? Now, and there you see different use cases. I would say in general, there are three use cases. So one is kind of, there's limited kind of data. So then it's indeed more difficult to kind of forecast, but we still can do that, but it's more hard. Then you have the cases where there's a lot of irregular kind of patterns over the years, which is also makes it difficult. But there, in the end, if you also know, for example, the commercial intent, or you know kind of what's happening with on the local side, then indeed you can help to predict it. And then the third group of is also the products you sell for a long time, for consistently, and that's of course the best cases of forecasting. So I think always you need to look at kind of these three buckets to and also with interacting with the customer, because some products, indeed, there's no data, and if there's no data, then it's very hard. We can, but it's very hard to kind of always kind of apply the latest technologies of machine learnings on that. So it really depends case by case, and it's also different company by company. And for example, if you start a new production site, it's also so there are different variances in that so to say. But they need the using of the data, the complexity, what I, for example, mentioned with weather, and also the amount of data that is critical for the business, and that's the conversation we have.
Well, it seems like there's a potential business opportunity in terms of enhancing the quantity and the quality of data, for this kind of effort that you're engaged in. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what areas do you have the greatest confidence in data? And obviously it's going to range from region to region or country to country, and where would you see the biggest gaps are in terms of the kind of data you'd like to have and your customers would like to have?
Now, so I think maybe on a higher level, if you look at fresh produce, I think that most of companies, well, maybe that's a bit bold statement, but they really dependent on gut feeling and experience and calling kind of their their contacts, and
Yeah.
less on machine type of kind of or data. Well, first of all, looking at kind of what is the data, the integrity of the data, and also kind of how to use it. And I think that's where we help those companies with, right? I mean, really kind of, so it's really in the forefront of yeah. So I think the gap might be start to use data in a proper way and making sure that you lock the data in the right way and that you can start working with that. And that's sometimes a period of it sometimes takes a year, but it's also a mindset change actually we see with companies. So they're not only working with us for the capability we have in machine learning, but also basically change management within the company to really kind of help to talk to all the stakeholders. Please, let's make sure that we have excellent data and fill in kind of the things we need to do.
Right. And I guess another question that I have, and is it seems that you're dealing a lot. I mean, you're in a fresh fruits, vegetables, et cetera. It's a just-in-time world, right? How far out can you go in terms of assisting companies with their forecasting? Are you at, weeks ahead, or are you months? Can you get into multi-year forecasting in some cases?
Yeah. So there are two things. So I think the feasibility, is it possible? Yes, we can well months forward. However, the question is, of course, what is operationally needed to run your business, and then actually become to kind of more what is the application, the use case they're looking at, and then what we do and what we see actually consistently is that 6 weeks out is sufficient for the companies we're working with. Why? Because they work, for example, with promotion plans and etc., and those are between 3 and 5 weeks up front. They know what when they're going to have promotions, and then they can also connect that with the sourcing, and that is kind of for them the most important thing. Also because we talk about fresh produce, meaning that 6 weeks out, weather can have an impact on the production, an upside or downside. For example, I was talking this morning with a customer, and the strawberry production was taking a little bit longer to start up with. And that's you only kind of know 2 or sometimes 3 weeks before that you say, okay, we need to kind of postpone those two things. So 6 weeks seems to be for now the golden period. But if customers have questions about can we extend it, yes. But then you come also to the other question, and that is about accuracy, right? So how accurate do you want it to be? And a year out is less accurate, of course, than if you do a short period of time. So it is. It really depends on the question of the customer, but
Yeah. I mean, I think there's been some discussion about, let's say, the future of banana production globally because of, I think it's disease in some areas. I think it's been overblown in terms of the concerns about that. But obviously, banana, I know in Canada, I think a lot of the world, it's one of the major fresh fruits because it travels so well and it's inexpensive. And yet, you know, understanding where that production system is going, its reliability in the future, that would be important if banana is a huge part of your produce section in a grocery store, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just wanna
Sure.
if I can, I just wanna go back to the statement Jan-Willem mentioned about how they work with companies that wanna innovate, that wanna integrate new technologies. And the question that pops up in my mind was, when you guys trying to get to work with a new client, do you usually work with sales and operations, or you need kind of a integration with a different departments across the whole organization? Because I think why I'm asking the question, a lot of companies think like, okay, we're gonna get this platform, we're gonna buy this tool, and it's gonna do everything for us. Is that the case, or not really? Can you hear me, Jan-Willem?
I
Yeah.
I think Yuri was asking about when you get a new client and you go in, who are the people you meet with, at what level, what parts of the company,
Yeah.
how integrated you become? Are you just a black box that they open up, or are you spending a lot of in-person time with people in the company?
Yeah. No, so I think that yeah. How we normally kind of start working with, and then I'll come to kind of the person specifically, is kind of really to help understand what we do, but also what the customer do in terms of kind of their business operations, right? I think mutual understanding is super critical. The second thing is indeed, okay, what data do they need at what moment in time is also very important actually to kind of interact with them, and that depends per customer and per client. Now, the people we are interacting with is we are people kind of mostly we start with either the CEO, the CCO, or kind of the more the higher level in the company, where they actually see, hey, yes, this is something that could benefit actually our company. And then it depends on the type of company. Is that we either work with the sales lead, or we work with kind of the sourcing lead, or the BI team. So that's kind of three type of groups of people we work with. So for example, with the German customer, we're really working with the CEO, where we actually give him on a weekly basis this email with his forecast. And he gives feedback, and we receive that, and then we process with that actually, because that's also an important thing. Although we talking about data, one of the things is that data is also limited, right? So we need to have also sometimes a bit more context, which you don't get from data. So another conversation I had earlier this week was actually about that for certain SKUs, so products actually, they want to kind of do a different kind of promotion setting, and that type of information is super important for us to improve the modeling as well, and do the things differently. So it is, I think sometimes people think that AI will take over, but it's really human and machine learning and AI. It's a kind of hand-in-hand combination, which makes it so powerful, right? I think it is never going to be a standalone thing, and that it's kind of erase all the people. That's for sure never going to happen, because the context is super valuable, and sometimes you miss that with the data.
Well, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
I think for many of us that are in the knowledge-based kind of part of the world, that
Yeah.
maybe we have a future. So I mean, I tend to agree with you that people is people. Yuri, did you want to? Did I correctly translate your question to
Yeah,
Willem? Yeah.
for sure. And I also want to kind of add to that I also personally believe that any machine learning or AI tool is just a tool, and human interaction is needed in order to make those decision how to act on intelligence or forecasts you get. And that's something we cannot solely put in the hands of an algorithm. But having those algorithms becoming more and more crucial, and I think that one gonna differentiate winners from losers as we move forward,
Mhm.
because people who get better insights and get them faster and get them more precise, and they will have a edge, I should say.
Yeah.
For sure.
So obviously, Jan-Willem, your company has done a good job of marketing because you're growing, you're building a customer base. But I am kind of curious, when you have a company that says, yes, we want to, work with you on a contractual basis, that, we're going to have a business relationship with you. What is there are there certain kinds of catalysts that lead to that? Is it that the CEO want to have incremental improvement and they want to invest more in this kind of activity, or are there failures where the failure to correctly forecast, supply and possibly demand or things like that led to some kind of a loss or crisis or something like that, and they said, okay, well, we need help. I mean, what are the kinds of scenarios you get when you go in the door and people say, yeah, this is why we hired you?
Yeah. No, so I think the principle of wholesalers is kind of really matching supply and demand. So that's a super critical process. And in that process, as you rightly said, is that it is difficult, but it's also kind of, you have a lot of kind of edge cases. So for example, a customer wanted to work with us because they saw the 1 week the production was kind of peaking, and then they made kind of commercial decisions. But the other week, actually, the supply completely dropped, and then they come kind of in a real kind of business chaos. Or a company where they really want to have kind of clear predictability on what is the expected harvest. And if they miss out on that, that has kind of a big impact. Not only kind of that maybe they don't have enough people to harvest, but also if you're too late, then maybe the quality is actually going down, and then also has an impact on price. So there are different kind of use cases why people want to have a bit more control over their business, and that's indeed where we can help with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so maybe we could talk a little bit about the regional areas where where you're working, and the differences regionally in terms of the data accessibility, the quality, and obviously you're dealing with different kinds of commodities, different logistical supply chains, all these kinds of things. Do you have any thoughts on where's the most interesting, let's put it that way, places to work, from your perspective?
Yeah, and I think so that's a good question. I think I don't know. So let's if you just scope it in Europe, I think that's already you see a lot of big difference actually how people work with data. And if you go beyond Europe, then even there are cases that they hardly have any data, or they need to start up with kind of logging, kind of, for example, in the praxis side, where when do we do actually the irrigation, when do we see the first flowers coming up, when do we see the first bud of a certain produce. Sometimes that's not even logged, and even if it's logged, then you have different people looking at it in a different way. So meaning that for one is kind of a flower for a certain size, but the other one is a smaller size. And so it's really kind of also the human interpretation of what you see and observe can also be quite different. So it's I think in general, maybe that we there's let's say room for improvement how we deal with data and fresh produce. No, make it a bit more general. And sometimes it's also not possible, right? Because, for example, if you're introducing a new SKU and a new commercial type, and you don't have time, then of course there's no data. So basically, then it's the first time, right? I mean, that's something you need to work with.
I think in Canada we're all becoming more familiar with SKUs because there's self-checkout now, and I know that bananas are 4011. I think that's correct. So so I mean, I think in some ways, people are a little more intimate. Consumers are a little more intimate with the food, not in everywhere, but certainly in Canada, I see that, and I think Europe has always been very conscious about quality and the importance of food as from a cultural point of view. So it's interesting. Do you do any forecasting related to consumer demand?
Not really, no. So what we do is we do is forecast demand for our wholesalers, so our customers. What is the expected demand per customer? But consumer demand is not something we are yet doing. No, but that's a little bit where the border is. So I think we can do it. I mean, it's not just about the feasibility, but that's not what we do today.
Yeah, well, it looks like you've got lots on your plate already. Yuri, what are your thoughts at this point in the conversation?
I just wanted to get back to this data gathering stuff and some of the points that Jan-Willem mentioned, like GDD, growth stages of certain plants, weather forecasts, scouting reports. All of this stuff is super valuable when you wanna forecast the potential supply of any produce. But kind of the question came up to me, Jan-Willem, have you had cases where you needed to kind of get the data from an existing ERP system or existing farm management system or data storage of any kind? Because I know that the big food companies usually have some sort of technology in place. And how did you tackle that? Because I know a lot of cases when people like, yeah, we can easily integrate, no question about it, and then you spend half a year just doing this integration.
Yeah, yeah, that's so indeed, and I think there's one thing in the data ingestion, and there's also the data output, and I think the data ingestion is really kind of, well, depends also per customer, but the bigger customers indeed, they do have this ERP system where you can automatically transfer data at a certain moment in time, which is great because that, well, reduces the manual and the human error actually in it. And indeed in terms of output as well, so some companies work actually with BI tools where you have just, well, you're normally kind of operations and then columns in it actually as well, but kind of, hey, this is the Merqato forecast, and this is what you can expect indeed. Yeah, so that is the way how we work with customers. Is that answering your question, or do you was looking for something else?
No, exactly. Just to kind of expand on that, I want to talk a bit more about what future holds for forecasting for food companies with a broad usage of AI and machine learning. Do you think more companies out there gonna try and get some AI algorithms that help them, or not specific?
Well, yeah, that's of course why we are in the business, because we think there's a big opportunity indeed that companies really need to well, yeah, transform with time, right? I mean, I think basically if you look at it, right, I think so normally how I normally see it is that, so you a lot of companies start in a kind of a bad situation. They hardly use kind of the current data, so it's lead data. And with Mercato, you can come to a good situation, and I think that is already great. But then with the human interactions and the context and etc., you can come to great. And I think that are the three steps. I think uh, for now, for most companies, we are a little bit in a yeah, not so good situation. So yes, there's enough opportunity to further grow and also use other external data sources. I think that's also limitedly used actually. I think if you think about price setting across markets, it's if you think about import export data. I mean, there's so many kind of venues where you can still kind of get better insights on what's happening. Because one thing is very clear, right? The complexity of the fruit and vegetable business, for sure, it's for human. It's impossible to grasp, although maybe we want to do it. But it is not like the old days where you have just a producer and one customer, right? I mean, that's not the case anymore. I mean, those companies are huge. I mean, they can go up to a billion or 2 billion euro revenue. I mean, it's impossible to manage that. I mean, I was also talking to another prospect customers, and they don't have a lot of production locations, but they call the producers multiple times a day actually to see, hey, what's coming from the field, and what do we do. Yeah, that is, I think, yeah, with machine learning, maybe you can reduce it to one time a day, and that saves you time, but also kind of, well, maybe misunderstanding as well, right? Because human interaction is great, but it's also sometimes can lead to, I say something but you hear something else, right? And I think that with data, it's, yeah, there you have less of a noise in that sense. So you can look at more of one source of truth. So do I see opportunity for the future? Yes, for sure. And I think that's yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, in that the CEOs that I've worked with, mostly in the farm input area, and they're constantly looking for less information, but the right kind of information, because I think there's a fire hose of data that can come at people, and is that a big part of what you're doing, Jan-Willem, is synthesizing the data, and obviously you're applying the algorithms to provide information, but it's boiling down to some easy to assimilate information, rather than spreadsheet after spreadsheet of numbers and decimal points.
Correct. Now I think there are 2 points actually we're tackling with this, because one thing is that the complexity, for example, if you for weather, right? I mean, if to ingest that, so you have, of course, different type, day temperature, night temperature. You have wind speed. You have how many clouds and etc. All those type of things. It's impossible to kind of digest as a human, and then also correlate what is the impact. So that helps already to make things much easier, and also because it's automated, this weather data input that helps you as well. But there's also another problem, I think, in the sector, and that is, I just mentioned it earlier about kind of calling. I think there's this, well, how I call it, like opinion gap. So meaning that if you put four people in the room sitting on the table and they start to talk, probably four people have four very good, well, individual perspectives, but probably it's maybe not aligned, and it's probably everybody understood something different from the conversation they had. And I think that is what we also try to do, is at least that there's on the table a basis of, hey, this is what it's based on data. Yes, it's limited, but based on data, this is how it looks like, and let's talk about this. Hey, what do you think about it? And I think that reduces kind of the opinion gap you most of the time see actually in companies. And
Yeah,
that's
I mean, people can't have a good discussion
yeah.
about decision making unless they have some agreement on what the actual facts are, and I think that's
Yeah.
critical in statistics, data, all those
Yeah.
kinds of things, is having confidence in the kind of information you have. But your analysis, though, does tend to lead people to conclusions, I'm guessing.
Mhm. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I mean, that's. But then still, of course, and that's what I also try to say earlier as well, is that yes, we have data. Yes, we provide the forecast. At the same time, sometimes we don't have all the contextual knowledge of a certain thing, why it goes down or go up or etc. Right? And I think that is where the human come into kind of. For example, promotion didn't happen or was actually planned because of reason A, B, C, and that's context. We not always have that, but indeed, it helps to, yeah, I think open up the discussion. I don't know if it's always conclusive because there's this context layer as well. So I think, yeah, but giving advice for sure, yeah.
Yeah, well, giving advice is it's a delicate thing.
I
I've given a lot of people a lot of advice.
know.
Most of it was, I think, pretty good, and some was not. So, it's a dicey business.
Yeah,
I'd like, we're getting towards the end of the conversation, but I'm wondering if you could look forward, beyond the 6 weeks that you talked about that you tend to live in. How do you see your business and the business environment that you're operating in changing over the next few years? I don't know how far out you want to go, but what are the things that you think will be different about how your business operates in, 1, 2, 3, 4 years down the road?
and do you talk about my business or the business actually of our customers? Because that's are two different
Well,
things.
I think the two are kind of hand in hand to a certain extent, right? But I think your business and the business environment that you operate in,
Yeah.
and I guess one might drive the other.
Now, yeah, so I think that's maybe more. I believe actually that in 10 years time we don't need to have all those conversations why data is important and what machine learning is and what is statistic analytics and all those type of basic conversation. I hope we can put that a little bit to the background, and that people understand. Yes, with data modeling and machine learning, you can really advance your business. So I hope that we start from a little higher educational level, so to say, and that also it is kind of everybody understands it. Kind of like, yes, of course, we need to have this automated algorithms in place in our company to make sure that we are able to run the company, where it is today really calling an individual kind of relationships that still continue to be important, but on the basis of a wider set of data and prediction. I think that's what we're going to, ideally from a company point of view, and that's also I think what we now do is really volume predictions, and I think if you look at quality predictions as well, because one of the problems we have in the sector is kind of this shoulder season. So where one season goes down and the other season starts up, then you have a lot of kind of quality questions, and I think that's also something we could help with. I think another thing is making sure that we have a better understanding in terms of explainability. So why is certain things happening, and can we make that even more razor clear? I think that's not something where we are today, but I think we should definitely go there. I think we are not there yet, and we won't do there yet to be kind of have an automated ordering system based on the sourcing. I think that is a little bit too advanced because the human, the persons are still too important. I think to do that. I hope we have come to a more efficient place, and that maybe the 30% of food we now waste, that we can maybe do 20 or maybe even lower. I think that would be an amazing world to be in, I think, because then the prices also drop, and then you also more people can have access to fresh produce, and I think that's in the end a win-win-win situation for a lot of people. So
yeah, well, I think farmers, particularly smallholders around the world, are looking for ways to have greater income security. And, for a lot of poor people, income security leads to food security. And so I think anything we do to make the system more efficient is good for sustainability.
Exactly.
And so, I think you're on the right side of history. Yuri, what do you want to is there anything we've missed in the conversation before we move to close up?
No, great discussion, guys. I really enjoyed it. I just want to kind of have my take or hot take for this episode, and I always thought about kind of data sources a lot because it's a base layer of any prediction, any forecasting, whatever you do, machine learning or statistical analysis or whatever. I think right now, because for most of the companies in agri-food and fresh produce being a part of it, supply chains are very sophisticated. They're very long, they're very fragile, and not super connected. I have a strong belief that as we move forward, we will have more connected supply chain where we can get additional insights, additional data sources that can be analyzed. So we will not talk only about information from the field, information from your processing facility, information from your packaging facility, information from your office. We will also get data on logistic routes, real-time commodity prices, adding real-time forecasts on weather. Those type of things will definitely take this machine learning and AI algorithms to the next level.
Yeah. Wow. So, Jan-Willem, I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I learned a lot. And your perspectives coming from the Netherlands, really interesting. We did invite you to sort of prepare some kind of a hot take or your outlook about what people should be focused on these days. Can you share anything with us?
So I think actually I liked the statement you just made. I think ideally you come to a world where kind of the grower until the supermarket is much more connected, and also therefore, in a more transparent world, you would also come probably to better decisions. Although at the same time, there's the critical note I need to make is that data, people tend to kind of protect their data as well. So it's kind of this constant friction by, yes, we want to share. So that's what I think. It's a great comment made by Yuri. And then in terms of, I think overall hot take, right? I think that is what I'm also preaching to the customers. I mean, algorithms beat intuition most of the time. I think that's where I would like to take it forward as well. With the company.
Well, good luck in your new endeavors going forward. We appreciate it. Yuri, maybe you'd like to thanks very much. Greatly appreciated the conversation. I'm sure the audience enjoyed it. So Yuri, do you want to provide some closing comments?
Sure. Once again, thank you our audience, everyone who's watching us or will watch this episode later on. Thank you for your interest. Jan-Willem, thank you for great insights, for a great overview of what happening in fresh produce versus machine learning and AI. Guys, just stick around. In February, we're going to have a next episode. So stay tuned, subscribe to our page, and we'll see you again next month.